Hello, and welcome back to Community Difference Makers, a conversation brought to you by Bankers Trust and United Way of Central Iowa. I'm your host, Emily Abbas, and this season, as you've heard, we're taking a deep dive into critical issues within our community. Today, we're continuing our focus on childcare. It's a topic that shapes how families live, work, and thrive, and in this episode, we're going to talk about one of the most pressing challenges facing our working families right now. And that's the rising cost of living and what that means for childcare. The cost of living continues to go up, and we know that families can't afford to pay their rent, we've heard. They can't afford to afford food, and childcare fits into that conversation as well. For many households, especially those that we describe as ALICE, which is asset limited, income constrained, yet employed, the cost of childcare is no longer just a budget line item. It's a deciding factor in whether parents can work, whether they can advance in their careers, and even stay in the workplace at all. So I'm going to let our guests today introduce themselves. I don't want to butcher their names. We've got a great group here. We're going to have a great conversation. Kim, let's start with you.
Okay. I'm Kim Bonjour-Eiteman. I'm the director at the Perry Child Development Center.
Welcome.
And I am Boaz Nkingi. I am the director of the ICOACH Youth Center.
And I'm Erin Davison-Rippey, Senior Community Impact Officer here at United Way of Central Iowa.
Wonderful. Well, today we're going to explore what's changed, what families are facing, and what solutions can really help stabilize childcare and affordability across this great community. So thank you all for being here. Erin, we'll start with you. We talk about ALICE a lot. Our whole community is going to be very informed on ALICE. We might have to give a test. Remind us who we're talking about and what the data tells us right now when we talk specifically about affordability.
Yeah, well, I can't wait for our whole community to know about ALICE. I'm excited for us to all have a shared understanding of what folks are facing here in Central Iowa. So as you said, ALICE folks are asset limited, income constrained, and mostly working. And so this really describes folks here in Central Iowa that are struggling to make ends meet. So, sometimes we think about how we talk about poverty or low income. It can feel like an issue that affects other people, somewhere out in the world, but not, here in our community. And when we talk about ALICE, we really emphasize that these are folks here in our community. They are our friends, our neighbors, our family members, our coworkers, our colleagues. It can be anybody. And when you look at the data here in Central Iowa, 1 in 3 households here in Central Iowa are under the ALICE threshold. So they are struggling to make ends meet. And so that means that we have a lot of families here in Central Iowa who are, frankly, just one emergency expense away from really being in a challenging situation. You think about, everybody is experiencing inflation right now. We know that. Costs of everything, it's rising. However, when you look at the cost of just the very basics, things like food and housing and childcare, and you don't include some of the things that, the CPI that we all hear about tied to inflation, that CPI includes, things like luxury goods and fine wines and, vacations. When you look at just the basic expenses for a family, the cost of those basic expenses are rising even faster than the cost of other goods. And so that means that our ALICE families here in Central Iowa are feeling the strain of inflation and rising costs even more than the general population. So they're having to make tough choices when it comes to housing and food and childcare, as we'll talk about today.
Yeah, so childcare is our topic. When it comes to those financial pressures, how does childcare factor in? How does it compare to these other costs that we're talking about?
Yeah, childcare is a significant expense in most people's budgets. It might be maybe as much as housing, rent or mortgage, or it could even be more than housing. And so ensuring access to affordable, high quality education is absolutely crucial when you look at the budgets of ALICE households. You think about if this is an expense that's taking up such a high percentage of a family's income, a lot of families who are struggling to make ends meet are having to make tough choices when it comes to childcare. That could be deciding whether or not it even makes sense for, one of the adults in that household to be working and still be able to afford childcare. It could mean making tough choices around what childcare setting they're utilizing, whether that's a, quality childcare setting that's focused on, the educational outcomes for that young person for the life, or making other tough choices. So it's a really important and big expense that can impact a family's budget very significantly.
So, Kim and Boaz, you both operate childcare programs, but serve very different communities. Kim, why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about the Perry Child Care Center and the families and communities that you serve?
We're a smaller center in Perry. We're licensed for 77, but we've recently taken on infants for Perry. That was our new rush, was finding childcare for infants. So we've taken that on for the last year. So our ratios now would be about 56. But Perry's had some pretty large tragedies in the last year or two. We had the school shooting, we had Tyson plant close. It's really affected not only the community as a whole, but the child care centers. Costs of everything play into that. We went from having 50 children enrolled down to 12 at one point. And still trying to pay all of our staff because, we're an AC accredited and we're a level 5 IQ4K. I don't want to lose those core teachers. That really affects how many children we can have and reach out to. A lot of those families during both of those tragedies, a lot of families moved. We would lose children. A lot of families with the school shooting at that time, they were afraid to send their children anywhere. A lot of families moved towards homeschooling. Grandparents took care of the kiddos, and even with the Tyson closing, they couldn't find jobs that had the same wage. They've taken lower paying jobs to provide for their families. So that has affected child care centers across the whole state. There's been many centers closing because of the high costs of food these days, not only for our center but for families and the centers. That's one of our highest costs, is providing food for these families too. We provide breakfast, snacks, lunch. Providing lunch alone for our kiddos it's up to $1,000 a month, between $2,000 and $5,000 a month, just depending on where our ratios are. So that's, the higher the food costs are. And then for the families, it's a real struggle. So either one person has decided to stay home. If it's a two parent household, a lot of our families are lower income to begin with, or a lot of single moms. But within the last year, it's even kind of switched. We used to have maybe 10 families on child care assistance to have help with child care costs. And the rest were either we provide scholarships or they would have private pay. Now, within the last year, it's totally the opposite. Now we maybe have 3 families that private pay. The rest are either on a scholarship or they have child care assistance. And it's not single parents anymore. It's married couples that are struggling to pay, and provide for their families, let alone have childcare, too. We try not to raise our tuitions because, they're already struggling. If we raise our prices, even to support our staff, or, keep in budget, we wouldn't have any kids. They just wouldn't be able to afford to come, let alone if they have multiple children, which most families have more than one. So it's a real issue and concern trying to pay our staff, pay the costs, all the utilities and everything included, and keep up our standards and passing all of our guidelines and things that we have to have, certain materials and things. We've have a lot more children now with some learning disabilities, autistic children that we've kind of struggled with taking in the past, but we're really trying to meet the needs of them, so they have somewhere to go that's quality. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in home child care sitters. That's a little bit of a cost savings for some families, but not necessarily the educational piece that some families are looking for. So it's, sometimes they have to make a tough choice between costs and, the education level or, what they can pay. So it's a real hardship for families and centers to try to stay open, even trying to hire staff as well. They need a higher wage to support themselves. So in turn, that's a struggle for the centers as well to keep good quality staff and stay open and meet the family needs. And it's just a circle within the community, the families, centers, I'm sure statewide.
Thank you for sharing that kind of broader overview. It's definitely a challenging time, and I look forward to digging deeper, and we can learn more, and let's figure out how we can work together to help. Before we do that, Boaz, tell us about ICOACH, first what it stands for again, and then the families served specifically by your child care center, and then we'll dig in together on maybe where there's some overlapping challenges and issues.
Yeah, ICOACH stands for the Iowa Congolese Organization and Center for Healing. We are a community-based organization that serves predominantly the Congolese community in central Iowa because the Congolese community is one of the fastest growing community in the refugee population here in central Iowa. We are small, like my friend said. We are licensed for 102 kids, and we are always full because the services that we provide in a cultural setting that is accessible, flexible, and understandable for the families that we serve. We all of our staff, the majority of our staff are all former refugees who have once faced the challenges that the families that we currently serve are facing. So we understand from the ground exactly what it means to be in this country as a refugee, trying to navigate the American systems that are very hard for families like mine. And so we try our best to help the families, working families who are struggling to even put food on their table. And then adding, childcare cost on top of that, it has been very challenging. Understand the family that we serve come from different, lifestyles, very different from what we see here. You're talking about families who have raised their kids in a refugee camp their whole life, and then now you have them in United States of America. It's a big jump, and a lot of families are still struggling to adjust even to the lifestyle itself. About childcare, the families we serve face, the language barrier. Transportation is our biggest challenge because you're talking about families who've never owned a car or never driven before. So now they're here. We're even always joke, cars here live in the houses. You open a garage and there's 2 or 3 cars in the garage. So it's very different environment for the people that we serve. So in terms of childcare, our people face a lot of challenges. Including language. When you talk about daycare centers here in America with hundreds and thousands of rules and regulations that our people are not used to, can't read, and don't know what's even in the handbook. So trying to explain and translate every little sentence that is written in that handbook to make sure that the parent is comfortable where their kids are attending. It's also very challenging, and we also, because we understand a lot of families don't know how to drive, don't have cars yet, so we are required to provide not only interpretation but also transportation. We pick up and drop off every child
Wow.
that comes to our center because the families that we serve, they work long distances. You mentioned about Tyson being, I mean, a lot of the people that we serve were working at Tyson. So you're talking about families who work long distances, Marshalltown, Perry, Tama, Waterloo. So right there itself, that's, they're gone the whole day. They leave home 5 in the morning and they don't come until maybe 6 or 7 p.m. So it's a very different population than what you serve. That's a little bit
Yeah.
about ICOACH and what we see in the childcare programs.
Well, thank you. I think you really touched really well on some of the additional pressures that families face as immigrants, which, everyone's facing different challenges, and some of those are very eye-opening. Family and childcare staff are feeling these pressures, and they create ripple effects across the community. We keep talking about how you can't separate housing, groceries, gas, childcare. All of it's more expensive. How do childcare costs stack up with everything else? Kim, what are you hearing directly from families, and how do these combined pressures affect them and their ability to pay to keep their kids in your center?
Um, like I mentioned a little bit before, some of them choose to, one parent might stay home or a grandparent steps up to watch. We've lost children because they just can't swing, food costs, rent costs, vehicle payments. If they have a child with an illness, trying to pay medical costs for some of them that we've had in the past. So it's affects our business. It affects our families. It's going to affect children down the road where they're going to be as they start school. They're not getting that beginning stepping stone for, we try to prepare them from the time they start in the infant room. We work with them and read stories and sing the songs and languages. We do have some refugee families that do come. They were already coming from Tyson and they decided to stay. So there's just, they're going to be behind, further and further behind when they're already starting behind with the language barrier in the first place. So it's a big concern moving forward. It's been for our center specifically since all the tragedies have happened to Perry in the last couple of years, just staying open, and then the costs on top of, trying to keep staff, keep families. Like I said, the child care assistance it's been kind of seeing a little bit of a change as well. It's getting a little tighter to qualify. So now when you're seeing married families qualify, that's for our center specifically, that's kind of a first. It's always been single family or single parent with multiple kiddos that would qualify. Now when you're seeing two parents working full time and still can't financially make it, that's kind of heartbreaking. So
we keep highlighting Alice, right?
Yeah.
And the buffing those or breaking those myths that these are people who are working every day. These are families that are doing their best for their kids. Boaz, are you seeing anything similar, anything different from what we just talked through?
Yeah, a lot of similarities. Housing, our people are working hard to pay their rent. Then adding childcare cost to the families who are already struggling to make a rent payment or to put food on their table. It's very challenging. The population we serve, are, like I said, are coming from, Most of us are coming from, war-torn countries, where there's already trauma going on in their household, after what just happened to them, losing everything to come here. So there is also that, fear from the families that we serve. They're here, they came here hoping for a better life for their children, but then you see a lot of them start worrying that they might even lose their kids because they just can't make it with the current finance situation that families are facing. So, but the nice thing about our center, like I said, as being former refugees who understand the struggle and the challenge, our staff are even working when they're not getting paid because our goal is to make sure that those families go to school, go to work and provide for the families. It doesn't matter if we get paid for what we do or not, we are still called to provide the care because there is safety issues, concerns from the families, leaving kids at home by themselves when parents are working long distances. It's very terrifying for us. So we are committed to even work when we are not getting paid to do what we're doing.
Thank you. And how meaningful for those families you're serving to have someone walking alongside of them that's been in their shoes and understands what they're going through and have navigated it themselves. So thank you to your team. Erin, we've talked about the tough choices that families and providers are making when childcare becomes really unaffordable. How does this highlight opportunities for workforce support and maybe some professionalization in this childcare field? How can we help? United Way is the convener. What can we do?
Yeah. So, we're often talking about Alice families, when we're thinking about the families that Boaz and Kim and other childcare centers are serving. But childcare workers are another, population that oftentimes can be a part of the Alice population. The Alice population really is the engine of our economy, and we see workers in all kinds of service. Childcare workers are a part of that. And so we've been doing a lot of work, especially recently, around how do we support the childcare workforce? Because, being able to provide childcare is both about, yes, having the physical spaces and having, the right size classrooms and everything that comes along with that. But none of that can happen if we don't have the workers who are providing that childcare. And so we've been fortunate to have some grants that are focused specifically on childcare workforce. I think in the past we think about the work that United Way has done around childcare quality. And Kim, you talked about some of the, certifications and the, quality ratings, which is a wonderful piece of the work that we're doing. So recently we've been looking at, how do we ensure that those childcare workers, have a professional career path, thinking about how do we support folks in seeing this as a profession, and providing them with educational opportunities, providing childcare centers with the resources to be able to have a really quality work experience, and have really found some interesting things. As you can imagine, this is a really complex issue, but there are some, really exciting and kind of simple solutions. We have found that, something as simple as having a break room space for childcare workers can really make a huge difference in their job satisfaction. Some of us take for granted that would be something that every setting would have, but when a childcare facility, you've talked about the pressures on childcare providers. they may not have a break room space. So we've been working with our childcare centers in our coalition that are serving populations most in need to, make sure there's a spot for those workers to be able to sit down and maybe have a cup of coffee with a coffee maker. Again, this doesn't resolve the systemic issues, but it really can make a difference for ensuring that those childcare workers have a positive and quality job experience so that we can keep those folks in childcare settings, because turnover creates all kinds of challenges for that childcare center, creates additional costs. And so keeping those childcare workers in those childcare centers ensures that those slots are available for families to utilize.
Do either of you have anything to add? We talked about, or Erin talked about, multi-sector solutions to improve not just the affordability, but to support your teams that are there with the kids every day. What else do you want to add that would help support them and want them to continue to thrive in their careers?
It's a big window. I think it's been a struggle for childcare, workers for years. It's just never seen as a profession. So, it's a really low income base wage for those teachers to take that on. And, for our center specifically, I do have a really great team. And they've given up their cost of living raise the last 3 years to make sure that we can put that back into the center instead of taking that on. The break room thing was one of the things for our center. Ours was like a break room / storage room. So it wasn't the most
simple thing.
Yeah. So, we kind of sliced up my office so we could have a space for the staff and, they can come in and feel familiar, and it just makes our unit more of a whole because, it's not really all about the pay. We want to be able to keep the kids in there, especially there's some real kiddos struggling that do have learning disabilities, and there's a lot of places that won't accept them. Where do they go? And now with the cost on top of that, and if they see therapists or speech, people, there's more cost. So we've started taking those in and kind of partnering with our school district too. They provide some people that come over to our center and help with that too. So it really takes, keeping quality people working in childcare is really key, and it's really important. If you don't have quality people and turnover, like, it's not just the cost to the center for rehiring teachers, it's a struggle for the children that have this teacher and that teacher, and they don't feel safe. They're not attached to anyone. They don't learn as well. They don't want to come. Some of them, like you mentioned, have had trauma, so we've lost, with a lot of the things changing politically, we've already lost some of our funding opportunities that we used to have in the past for scholarships. Some grant funders, they like to see a thing, an object for some of their grants to be for the center. Well, scholarship, it doesn't sound very fun, but it's really needed. So maybe some of the funders out there that, maybe think a little bit about that more, even $40, $50 a week off could make that difference for, like, the Alice families to be able to maybe figure it out a little easier. Just that little bit will help some of the families be able to bring their kiddos to a center, a safe place.
Boaz, anything you want to add that would help support your team?
I think she mentioned a lot of good things that happened that we are also beneficiaries of that.
Okay.
Talked about the break room for our staff. We benefited from that. Our staff members are enjoying that and they like it. The maybe more free training or resources for teachers and providers might help a little bit, because we're not talking about just childcare cost, but everything costs money in this country. So having that resource available where people like myself and my staff can attend a free workshop with resources of how they can work better in their environment might help a little bit.
Yeah. And Kim's talked a little bit about what instability really means for the kids. And that's important that we take it down to the kids. Do you have anything to add about really what does it take to make children feel safe and trust a place that's trustworthy for immigrant parents, especially when there's language or cultural differences? How do you make your child care center place feel safe and like a place that families can trust and send their kids every day?
Yeah, I mean, one thing we've done in our center that I think helped kids feel safe is we have this what we call the ICOACH spirit that, say we meet families where they are. So when when we have enrollments, we really take time to learn about the families and what they like, what they don't like, what makes them feel safe, and what makes them feel comfortable. Because, like I said, we are part of the community and we understand a lot of the challenges that people face. So we meet families where they are because we speak the languages that families speak. It's also safe for the families, and they trust us because nothing get lost in translation. Whatever I speak is what they understand, and whatever they speak is what I understand. So because we've had that as a challenge, when the kids that we serve go to other childcare centers where there are a lot of, miscommunication, misunderstanding, things get lost in translation. So the fact that we speak that language, we are part of that community, and also people or families are used to the environment where we are providing care to their kids. So they know the place, they know the space. So it has helped a lot for the families that we serve to feel safe and comfortable.
So important. I love to wrap
And the
with
food, I forgot about
Oh, yes.
food.
Yeah.
Yes, you mentioned about, providing, we provide lunches and snacks. Families don't have to worry about that. And it's the food that the kids eat at home and, and their parents. So it works perfect.
What's the favorite snack these days?
I don't know.
One that gets all the kids pumped up. It's
Probably different for everyone is a little different. We have big fruit eaters.
I was going to say.
Yeah,
Fruit.
fruit snacks
Good.
has
Healthy
been very
snacks.
popular.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, I'd love to hear something that gives you hope in this space. We've talked about so many challenges, but so much progress is being made. Let's do kind of rapid fire, quick down the line. We'll go right down the row. What gives you hope for how we can make improvements in this space and provide adequate and affordable child care in your community?
Yeah, what gives me hope is to see how the broader community have stepped up and help each other.
Yeah.
When you see people working together, to solve a common goal, it's very uplifting and it gives you hope for the future. Because I know I am not in this alone. I am with my friend Kim, and United Way is standing beside us. Bankers Trust is caring about the services that we provide. So that collaborative effort is very needed, and it gives centers hope that because we know we are not alone, and when we fall down, there's somebody who's gonna come and pick us up and carry us on their backs, and we're gonna get through this. So I that to me is really what gives me hope that we are in this together and there is help along the way.
We are in this together. Kim?
I think it's a lot like he said too, in these kind of situations too, just being able to get our name out there and our situations out there, family need out there. There's been a lot of a push legislation wise, really reaching out more towards childcare, and even trying to get it seen as a profession for just the teachers as well. So, I've met with a lot of HHS for childcare assistant, some changes for that too. So hopefully we can see that in the future. And just, I feel like in the last year for sure, it seems like childcare is more of a talk. So that really helps us keep going, keep hanging in there. For my community, especially, we're seeing some new businesses come in. So we've had some new families, we've had some more calls. So that's always, okay, we're going again. It's just been kind of a up and down. So, it's just nice to have, other centers and hear that they're fighting the same fight. So we're all in it together. So hopefully we'll keep going and see some improvement soon for us and the families.
It truly is a critical community issue, and it's, our honor to help lift up and amplify these stories. Thank you for sharing. Erin, bring us home. What brings you hope? What gives you hope?
Yeah, I think, like Kim and Boaz talked about, the community coming together, stepping forward. We hear more and more people talking about childcare, and that gives me so much hope that we really can make a difference, make change, whether that's, policies to support families accessing childcare assistance, ensuring that, childcare assistance is, designed in a way that families really can access it, that we're not putting more barriers in front of these families, to, thinking about employers supporting childcare access. There's so much that we can do. And I have so much hope that as we continue this community conversation, that we will take the needed steps to make those changes across all of these sectors to really make the difference.
I can't thank you all enough for sharing your expertise, your experiences, your leadership in supporting Central Iowa families. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As you've heard today, childcare affordability and workforce stability do go hand in hand. Solutions required a very coordinated effort and a shared commitment that value both children and putting the professionals who care for them both at the forefront of our priorities. We've talked today a lot about meeting families where they are. We've talked about making sure we have training and resources and simple things as break rooms for childcare providers. If today's conversation inspired you, please get involved. Support childcare centers, advocate for policies that strengthen our early childcare system, start a conversation with someone you know about the importance of quality, affordable childcare and our workforce. Learn more at unitedwaydm.org/childcare. I'm Emily Abbas with Bankers Trust. We're the largest community bank in Iowa, and we feel it is our honor and our duty to help uplift and amplify these stories and share these critical community conversations. Thank you for listening to Community Difference Makers. When we come together about a shared purpose, we don't just talk about change, we really make it happen. So join us next time for part 3 of this 4-part series on childcare. We'll continue this conversation and get perspectives directly from the people who are doing this important work every day, just like our guests today. Thank you for listening, and please share our podcast with others who you think might be interested in learning more and stepping up and collaborating with us.